If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and follow my social media in the description. It really helps me out. So the other week, J. Cole released an article, or rather an essay he wrote for the Players Tribune, in which he talked about his early stages in his basketball, but also his music career, and there was one interesting part he mentioned, which I would like to get into here. The part I'm talking about talks about his record label deal he signed with Roc Nation in 2009. This, of course, was a big and important step in his career, as he had dreamed of being signed to Jay-Z ever since he was a kid. But there is one particular excerpt that I would like to focus on, and I'll read it to you real quick. I signed my record deal on February 24th, 2009. I had just turned 24. That date is easy for me to remember because it's the day before the birthday of one of my closest friends and business partners, Ibrahim Hamad. That day, we both took an elevator up to the fancy office of a high-end entertainment law firm housed in a New York City high-rise. Far from what I would have imagined, the actual moment of signing the contract was relatively unremarkable. Ebe and I sat in a small, quiet conference room across from an associate of my fancy new lawyer. The mountain of papers in front of him included multiple copies of a record deal that I never actually read. The associate pointed at the area of each page that needed my signature, and when all the copies were signed, Ebe and I probably dapped each other up and said something like, "Aight, my dog, let's get it." With empty pockets, we hopped in the dented black Honda Civic and slid down to Lower East Side of Manhattan to celebrate at a bar with some of our homeboys. RJ was in town, Mike Rooney was there, Prue fell through, Ted and Elite showed up. The sun was going down and the happy hour crowd was filling in. There was a surreal feeling that came with having just officially signed to Jay-Z. The man was a mythical figure to me that I had only met one time a few months prior. Friends would congratulate me and follow it up with the "how you feeling?" I imagined that the thought of one of their homies getting a deal with somebody we all idolized had to be mind-blowing. But the truth was that the enormous level of excitement I felt was somehow subdued by the amount of focus I knew I had to have for my ultimate mission. I came to New York 6 years earlier on a partial scholarship with one ridiculous goal in mind: to one day sit in the same seat that Jay and only a handful of other rappers previously sat. Signing to one of my biggest inspirations was an unexpected blessing, but even on that beautiful night of celebration, I understood it was just one giant step towards something much more far-fetched. Now, of course, that was quite a long excerpt from Cole's essay, but I believe it's important to really understand the situation. So J. Cole admitted to never actually reading the contract he signed. He mentioned that there were only some fancy lawyers that told him where to put his signature, and in the heat of the moment, he did just that. Now, of course, it all worked out for Cole, partly because his contract probably wasn't as harsh as that of bigger, major record labels, but nevertheless, if J. Cole himself doesn't even read his contract, then why would anyone expect some young artist from the new generation to do it? And I know this is something that's been talked about quite a bit recently already, but I think it's a very important issue in hip-hop right now. Record labels try to entice young artists with a lot of advance money that of course will need to get paid back over the course of the artist's career. But it just seems too good to be true because this young man or woman might get $2 or $3 million in advance. And the details this contract then entails are very rarely understood, as we see in J. Cole's case. Especially nowadays, in a time when record labels know that a certain single artist won't be as relevant as long as, for example, Cole would be after 2009, they're of course just in it for the money. But also in this day and age, it is easier than ever for a young aspiring artist to go independent due to the nature of social media, and that should always be kept as an option. I say all this to express how tough it is to watch all these artists with a bright future get limited in their artistic vision and process just for the sake of their label wanting to get their bread, which from a business point of view of course makes sense, but music is after all art and shouldn't be limited in that. It worked out for J. Cole, but for a majority of artists signing today it's not looking as good, and mark my words, there will be a lot more people going independent or calling out their labels in the near future. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, I would really appreciate it if y'all would subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media in the description. Until the next one, y'all have an amazing day.